They tell you to chase motivation, to wait for inspiration, to find your why, to ignite passion and let it carry you forward. But that is the lie of the week. Motivation is entertainment for the restless. It makes you feel alive for a moment, but it abandons you when life becomes difficult. Machiavelli never trusted feelings. He knew kingdoms were not built on excitement, but on structure. Armies were not sustained by passion, but by discipline. And wealth, the quiet, unshakable kind, belongs not to those who chase sparks of motivation, but to those who build systems that outlast every emotion. If you want to understand why most men will forever remain slaves to money, and why a select few bend wealth to their will, you must forget motivation entirely. Because the truth is simple: motivation burns fast, discipline builds empires, and once you understand that, you will never look at wealth the same way again. They tell you motivation is the key, that without it, you'll never take action, never move forward, never create wealth. They call it inspiration, drive, energy. They romanticize it in speeches, in books, in videos, designed to give you a rush. But Machiavelli would scoff. He would remind you that motivation is not strength, it is theater. A performance you give yourself in the mirror. A fragile spark that vanishes the moment reality bites back. Motivation is nothing more than a drug for the restless. It feels powerful in the moment, but it leaves you weaker when it fades. And it always fades. You know this. Every January, the gyms are full. Every seminar, the crowd is roaring. Every motivational video racks up millions of views. But where are those people 3 months later? Gone. Back to their old habits. Trapped in the same financial cages they swore they would escape. Why? Because they mistook a fleeting feeling for a foundation. Machiavelli understood that real power is not emotional. It is structural. Empires are not built on adrenaline. They are built on architecture, discipline, repetition. Kings did not rise because they woke up inspired. They rose because they constructed systems that endured whether they felt strong or weak. And this is the first illusion of motivation. It convinces you that energy is progress, but energy without direction is chaos, and chaos is the enemy of wealth. Think of motivation as fire. It flares hot and bright, but uncontrolled, it burns down the house you wanted to build. Discipline is water, quiet and steady, shaping stone over centuries, carving mountains into rivers. The man of discipline does not need to feel like working. He works. He does not need to feel inspired to save. He saves. He does not need a speech to remind him of his vision. His habits carry him where his feelings refuse to go. This is why motivation is the opium of the weak. They chase it the way addicts chase the next high. They cannot act without it, so they become dependent on constant stimulation. They scroll for it. They pay for it. They worship those who sell it. And in doing so, they reveal the truth. They are not free. Because he who requires motivation to act has already surrendered control to whoever provides the spark. Machiavelli would tell you, beware the men who need to be motivated. They are unreliable, unstable, untrustworthy. Their loyalty shifts with their moods. One day, they will fight for you with zeal. The next, they will betray you out of fatigue. And in wealth, in power, in survival, such men are dangerous liabilities. But let us speak plainly. Why do so many cling to motivation? Because it is easy. Discipline demands pain. It demands boredom. It demands saying no to indulgence and yes to repetition. Motivation asks only that you feel good for a moment. That is why the market for motivation will never die. It is a drug sold to the masses because the masses would rather feel wealthy for a moment than become wealthy through years of discipline. You see it in spending habits. The motivated man says, I deserve this. I worked hard. I feel inspired to treat myself. He buys the car, the watch, the lifestyle, because in his mind, motivation equals reward. But the disciplined man does not care how he feels. He follows his architecture. He saves, he invests, he builds, he waits. And while the motivated man flashes symbols of success, the disciplined man constructs the substance of it. This is why motivation is not only weak, it is dangerous. It convinces you that desire equals destiny. It makes you believe that feeling the urge to win is the same as winning. But in the Machiavellian sense, this is self-deception. Real power never announces itself through feelings. Real power operates in silence, when no one is watching, when no applause is given, and it endures long after the rush is gone. Consider this. A man with motivation wakes at dawn, excited to chase his goals. A man with discipline wakes at dawn because that is the design. One of them will falter when tired, distracted, or discouraged. The other will rise regardless. Who do you think builds wealth? Who do you think survives markets, wars, betrayals, collapses? Not the one who feels like it, the one who acts despite not feeling like it. Motivation is reactive. It responds to circumstances, to mood, to external pressure. Discipline is proactive. It ignores circumstances and imposes structure on them. This difference is the line between poverty and prosperity, between dependence and sovereignty. Let me show you how deep this illusion runs. The system wants you motivated. It sells you slogans. Follow your passion. Stay hungry. Keep grinding. Why? Because as long as you are chasing feelings, you will never build structure. And without structure, you will always be a consumer, never the architect. You will always need the next seminar, the next book, the next coach, the next trend. And while you consume, someone disciplined is quietly constructing the systems you feed with your money, your time, your belief. This is why Machiavelli would say, motivation is a leash. It gives you the illusion of freedom while binding you to the hand that holds it. The hand of marketers, employers, rulers, and billionaires who understand that people addicted to motivation are the easiest to manipulate. Tell them what they want to hear. Give them a temporary high, and they will follow you blindly. Discipline breaks that leash. Discipline does not need speeches. It does not need applause. It does not need novelty. Discipline is self-sufficient. It is its own fire. And because of this, it cannot be controlled by others. The disciplined man is dangerous because he cannot be bribed with feelings. He does not care whether you cheer or boo. He builds regardless. Wealth, then, is not a game of motivation. It is a test of discipline. The marketplace is full of motivated dreamers. They start businesses every January, open accounts every spring, declare goals every summer, and by winter, they are broke, disillusioned, searching for the next wave of motivation. But the disciplined few, the ones who grind through boredom, through setbacks, through silence, they are the ones who own the marketplace by the time the dreamers burn out. Here lies the final cruelty of motivation. It makes you believe you're unique. It whispers, this time, it's different. This time, you're really going to stick with it. But discipline doesn't whisper. Discipline doesn't flatter. Discipline commands. And those who obey it, even when it feels dull, become the masters of wealth. Machiavelli would leave you with this thought. Motivation is how rulers keep the people busy. Discipline is how rulers keep themselves in power. The crowd must be motivated to work, to spend, to obey. But the prince, the strategist, the wealthy man, he requires no such drug. He moves by design, not desire. And in the end, design always outlasts desire. So ask yourself this, when the fire of motivation dies, as it always does, what will remain? If the answer is nothing, then you are still a slave to illusion. But if the answer is discipline, structure, unshakable architecture, then wealth is not a question of if, only when. Discipline is not glamorous. It does not make headlines. It does not create viral clips or give you chills when you hear it. It is not lightning, it is machinery. Cold, repetitive, predictable, unfeeling. And yet, Machiavelli would remind you, it is precisely this lifeless quality that makes discipline indestructible. Because while motivation burns out in noise and passion, discipline grinds forward in silence. And in the construction of wealth, silence always wins. Understand this. Money is not made in sparks of brilliance. It is made in structures, habits, and systems that repeat over time until they become unbreakable. Think of the fortress of a medieval prince. It was not built overnight by men who felt inspired. It was built stone by stone, day after day, by men following a design regardless of how they felt. That is wealth, an architecture of repetition. And discipline is the only force capable of carrying that architecture forward when the human heart grows tired. The weak despise discipline because it exposes them. Motivation can make a coward feel like a warrior for a moment. Discipline forces him to show up when no one is watching. Motivation lets him fantasize about wealth. Discipline makes him sit in silence, controlling his impulses, rejecting pleasures, delaying gratification, building piece by piece, while others are distracted. The crowd worships fire. The strategist builds engines. Consider the difference between the man of motivation and the man of discipline in finance. The motivated man reads a story about someone who struck gold with crypto or real estate and rushes to invest. He feels inspired, so he acts. But his excitement is not structure, it is noise. When the market drops, his motivation collapses, and with it, his commitment. The disciplined man ignores the hype. He saves, he invests consistently, he studies, he plans. He does not need a rush to act. His system acts for him. When the market drops, he does not panic, he does not sell. His discipline shields him from his emotions. And when the cycle turns, he is richer, not because of luck, but because of machinery. Machiavelli would say, the disciplined man is more dangerous than the inspired man, because he cannot be predicted by mood. He is a force of design. His habits function like gears. They turn regardless of applause, regardless of fear. And over time, they generate momentum that no amount of motivation can match. Discipline is the great equalizer. You may not be smarter, richer, or more talented than others, but if you are disciplined, you will outlast them. Talent burns out, excitement fades, intelligence gets distracted, but discipline is endurance, and wealth does not reward the one who starts fastest. It rewards the one who stays longest. Now let us be clear. Discipline is not about doing more. It is about doing less, with precision, again and again, until the results compound. This is why Machiavelli would admire the man who says no to indulgence, to distractions, to unnecessary risks. He would see more strength in the man who declines pleasure than the man who chases opportunity recklessly, because discipline is subtraction, not addition. It is the art of narrowing focus until only what matters remains. Wealth is the perfect arena for this principle. The undisciplined man buys to impress. The disciplined man buys only what fits his architecture. The undisciplined man diversifies not out of strategy, but out of fear, scattering his energy. The disciplined man concentrates where the design tells him. The undisciplined man flaunts gains. The disciplined man conceals them, reinvests them, multiplies them, and while one shouts, the other constructs. But here lies the Machiavellian truth. Discipline is not natural. It must be engineered. Human beings crave novelty, comfort, indulgence. Discipline requires you to betray those instincts daily. That is why so few master it. That is why motivation is so popular, because it flatters the instincts. Discipline demands you kill. The crowd wants to feel good. The disciplined man does not care. He wants to build. So how does one construct discipline? Not through passion, not through hope, but through design. A fortress is not built by mood. It is built by blueprint. You create systems that operate without needing inspiration. Automatic savings, strict budgets, daily routines, clear strategies. The system acts when you are tired, bored, uninspired. That is discipline, not willpower, but infrastructure. Machiavelli would remind you of the Roman legions. They did not rely on the courage of individual soldiers. They relied on discipline lines that held, formations that never broke, commands that were followed without question. And because of this, they crushed armies twice their size, who fought with passion, but without structure. The same principle applies to wealth. Passionate dreamers rise and fall. Disciplined builders endure, compounding silently until they own the empire. Another truth, discipline is boring. And this is its secret power. The crowd cannot stand boredom. They chase novelty, trends, excitement. But boredom is where compounding lives. Saving every month is boring. Reinvesting quietly is boring. Reading financial statements is boring. Building systems is boring. But boredom is where the disciplined separate from the motivated. Because the motivated cannot sit still without a rush, the disciplined thrive in repetition. And repetition builds wealth, the way drops of water carve stone. This is why discipline is not only machinery, it is weaponry. The man who trains himself to embrace boredom becomes untouchable. Markets crash, crowds panic, politicians stir chaos, and yet he continues, steady, unbroken, because his power does not come from outside. It comes from within, from machinery that does not care about noise, and that makes him lethal in the Machiavellian sense. He is the man you cannot sway with promises or threats. He is the man who builds, whether you praise or condemn him, and that is the man who ends up with control. Remember, money is not earned once, it is built continuously. The motivated man might win once, then lose it all. The disciplined man wins slowly, quietly, but permanently. Because his wealth is not an event, it is a structure, and structures outlast sparks. So understand this, motivation is theater for the crowd, discipline is machinery for the strategist, and in the long war of wealth, machinery beats theater every time. The crowd will cheer for inspiration, but when the dust settles, when years have passed, when empires are measured not by words, but by stones, systems, and silence, it is the disciplined who rule. Machiavelli would leave you with this warning: beware of the man who is consistent. He will look unremarkable today, but tomorrow, and the day after, and the year after, he will still be building. And when you return decades later, you will find that while the world was chasing sparks, he built the fortress you now live under. That is the machinery of discipline, cold, silent, patient, and in the end, unstoppable. Wealth is not simply numbers in an account. Wealth is power. It dictates who bends, who obeys, who commands. It determines whether you live at the mercy of others, or others live at the mercy of you. And in the Machiavellian view, power is never granted by luck or fleeting energy. It is seized through structure, patience, and ruthless design, which means discipline is not just a habit, it is a weapon, a strategic tool that allows you to bend reality to your will. Consider the battlefield. A general who relies on motivation can rally his soldiers with speeches, songs, and promises. They cheer, they surge, they fight fiercely for an hour, for a day, maybe even for a battle. But what happens when hunger sets in, when fatigue crushes their bodies, when the enemy presses without pause? The cheering stops, the soldiers scatter, passion evaporates in the face of pain. The army collapses. Now consider a general of discipline. His soldiers march not because they are inspired, but because the design demands it. They fight not because they feel brave, but because their formation leaves no room for cowardice. Their drills, their routines, their systems ensure they hold even when their hearts waver. And because of this, they not only win battles, they win wars. Discipline transforms the temporary rush of passion into enduring, repeatable strength. Wealth operates the same way. Motivation may give you bursts of effort, but bursts cannot build empires. Empires require continuity. They require a machine that does not stop simply because the human inside it feels weak. Discipline is the machinery of strategy, the structure that carries your plans forward regardless of mood. This is where most people fail. They approach wealth as if it were a lottery, a moment of lightning, a stroke of inspiration. They gamble, they chase trends, they wait for opportunities that feel right. But Machiavelli would remind you, fortune favors not the reckless, but the prepared, and preparation is the fruit of discipline. The disciplined man is never at the mercy of luck. He builds systems that bend luck in his favor. He is never at the mercy of feelings. His structures act whether he is inspired or broken. Think of saving money. To the motivated man, saving is a chore he remembers only when he feels guilty or hopeful. To the disciplined man, saving is automatic. It is non-negotiable. He does not save when he feels like it, he saves because the system demands it. Over years, the difference becomes astronomical. One builds a fortress, the other builds excuses. Discipline as strategy is not about denying pleasure for its own sake. It is about control. Power belongs not to the man who indulges in every urge, but to the man who controls them. Wealth, at its core, is control over your time, your options, your future. The man of discipline is dangerous because he cannot be bought by his own weakness. He does not chase every appetite. He channels his energy into his architecture. That architecture becomes leverage, and leverage becomes power. Machiavelli wrote that it is better for a prince to be feared than loved. Why? Because fear is reliable, love is not. In the same way, discipline is reliable, motivation is not. If you build wealth on discipline, it endures whether you feel joy, fear, or despair. If you build it on motivation, it collapses the moment your mood shifts. Let us look deeper. Discipline is strategy because it creates predictability, and predictability is the foundation of power. Markets are chaotic, people are fickle, fortunes rise and fall. But if your system is disciplined, you can forecast, plan, adjust. You can endure storms because your architecture does not depend on external chaos, it depends on your internal order. This is why empires outlast rebellions, why dynasties outlast revolutions. They are built on discipline, not passion. Consider two men. The first, guided by motivation, starts a business with fire in his eyes. He works long nights, fueled by excitement. But when sales dip, when fatigue sets in, when novelty fades, so does his effort. The second, guided by discipline, sets a schedule, a process, a system. He shows up whether profits rise or fall. He adjusts, he improves, he continues. After 5 years, the first man is broken, bitter, reminiscing about his dream. The second man is wealthy, powerful, and expanding. That is not luck. That is strategy born of discipline. Here is the cruelty of discipline. It is invisible at first. The motivated man looks impressive in the beginning. He speaks loudly, acts boldly, announces his goals. The disciplined man looks ordinary, almost dull. He does not boast. He does not rush. He repeats small, quiet actions that no one notices. But over time, the invisible compounds into the inevitable. And when the dust clears, the disciplined man holds power the motivated man cannot even comprehend. Wealth, then, is not simply about money. It is about sovereignty. The disciplined man does not work because he feels like it. He works because his system demands it. Over years, this autonomy compounds into freedom. The motivated man remains a slave to moods, to trends, to external pushes. The disciplined man becomes his own master, and mastery is power. Machiavelli would argue that discipline is also a weapon against manipulation. The world is full of rulers who seek to control you through your emotions. They motivate you to spend, to consume, to obey. They flood you with inspiration, so you remain restless, dependent, distracted. But the disciplined man does not bend to such tricks. He is unmoved by slogans, immune to hype. His structure carries him when persuasion fails. That makes him dangerous to those who profit from weakness. Strategic discipline is not about rigidity. It is about adaptability within structure. A fortress may adjust its defenses, but its foundation does not crumble with every storm. Likewise, the disciplined man can pivot, but he never abandons his core systems. This balanced stability with flexibility is what makes discipline superior to motivation. Motivation reacts wildly to every shift. Discipline absorbs shocks without losing direction. So why is discipline so rare? Because it is brutal. It requires years of silence. It demands saying no to pleasures the crowd worships. It forces you to appear ordinary while you build extraordinary strength. The masses cannot endure this. They crave recognition, excitement, and validation. The disciplined man can endure obscurity because he does not need applause. He needs results. And that patience, that willingness to be underestimated, is his strategic edge. In wealth, as in power, perception often deceives. The The crowd believes the loudest, flashiest, most motivated man is winning. But Machiavelli would remind you, appearances are tools. The real winners are silent builders. They do not reveal their discipline until it has already turned into dominance, and by then, it is too late for the motivated dreamers to catch up. Discipline as strategy transforms time into a weapon. Each day, each repetition, each small action compounds. One disciplined hour today is invisible. 10 years of disciplined hours is undeniable. Motivation burns out in a weekend. Discipline builds legacies, and legacies are the only true currency of power. So remember, motivation might start the fire, but discipline builds the empire. And in the Machiavellian world of wealth and power, empires, not sparks, decide who rules. Wealth is not an accident. It is not luck, nor fate, nor the gift of inspiration. Wealth is architecture. It is a fortress, designed and built stone by stone, governed by rules, and enforced by the cold steel of discipline. Motivation may dig the first trench, but it cannot sustain the construction. Only discipline can. And in the Machiavellian sense, whoever controls the architecture of wealth controls the battlefield of life. Think of a city. The motivated man builds like a gambler. He adds houses when he feels excited, tears them down when he feels discouraged, expands recklessly when trends look promising. His city is chaos, no roads, no walls, no design. It collapses at the first invasion because it was built on moods. The disciplined man builds like an engineer. He lays foundations, constructs walls, ensures every piece fits into the larger blueprint. His city may rise slowly, unnoticed, but when it is complete, it is unshakable. This is why wealth is never about how much you earn in a moment, but about what you can sustain over decades. Motivation cannot survive decades. Discipline can, because discipline does not depend on mood or market. It depends on design. Machiavelli understood that fortune favors the prepared mind, the structured hand. He wrote of princes who secured power not by chasing every opportunity, but by building fortresses, forming alliances, and mastering the machinery of state. Wealth works no differently. The disciplined man builds systems, financial, mental, strategic, that protect him against chaos. He prepares not for the good days, but for the inevitable storms. And when the storms come, as they always do, the motivated man is washed away while the disciplined man stands firm. Architecture requires sacrifice. To build a fortress, you must delay pleasure. You must stack stone after stone while others dance. You must spend years constructing walls that no one praises until the day they save you. Discipline is that sacrifice. It is the willingness to endure obscurity, to build quietly while the crowd chases sparks. And when the years pass, the crowd finds itself empty-handed while the disciplined stand inside fortresses of wealth. Consider investing. The motivated man throws his money into whatever excites him. A stock tip, a new coin, a flashy startup. He feels alive for a moment, but he is gambling with chaos. The disciplined man invests methodically. He saves consistently. He studies markets. He diversifies intelligently. He reinvests profits. His system compounds silently. After 20 years, one has stories of what could have been. The other has an empire. That is architecture. But the architecture of discipline is not only financial, it is psychological. The disciplined man builds mental walls against fear and greed, the two forces that destroy wealth. The motivated man feels rich when the market rises, terrified when it falls. He acts on emotion, buying high, selling low, chasing illusions. The disciplined man acts only on structure. He continues his plan regardless of emotion. His fortress protects not only his money, but his mind. And this, more than anything, is why discipline beats motivation. Wealth built on discipline is sovereign. It cannot be taken easily, because it is not a pile of coins, it is a system. A motivated man may stumble into riches, but he will lose them because he lacks the architecture to protect them. A disciplined man, once wealthy, is nearly impossible to dislodge because his systems regenerate, protect, and expand his fortune automatically. He has built not just wealth, but resilience. Machiavelli would remind you, appearances deceive. The motivated man often looks wealthier in the short term. He buys luxuries, shows symbols, flaunts status. The disciplined man looks ordinary, restrained, unremarkable. But appearances fade, architecture endures. And when years pass, it is the disciplined man who commands real wealth, not the illusion of it. The architecture of discipline also creates freedom. Money itself is not freedom structure, island. Without discipline, money owns you. With discipline, money obeys you. The motivated man spends to feel free, but becomes chained by debt, by obligations, by constant hunger for more. The disciplined man saves, invests, builds, slowly gaining control, until he can choose his work, his time, his alliances. That is true sovereignty, the ability to say no because your architecture provides security. This is the great irony. Discipline, which feels restrictive, creates ultimate freedom. Motivation, which feels liberating, creates ultimate slavery. The crowd cannot see this because they live for the rush of today. But the strategist, the Machiavellian mind, understands that freedom is never the product of indulgence. It is the reward of restraint. Wealth as architecture also reveals a deeper truth. Those who lack discipline will always serve those who possess it. The motivated masses spend, consume, chase feelings. Their labor, their money, their time flows upward into the fortresses of the disciplined few. The rulers of wealth do not need to motivate the masses. They only need to let the masses motivate themselves into exhaustion, while quietly harvesting the fruits of discipline. This is why motivation is not just weak, it is useful to those in power. It keeps the crowd restless, while the architects of discipline grow unchallenged. Ask yourself, do you want to be the restless crowd or the architect? Do you want to live chasing sparks or to sit inside walls you built with your own hands, immune to storms? That is the choice. And it is not decided in moments of inspiration. It is decided in the daily, silent, disciplined actions no one sees. Machiavelli would end with this lesson. Fortune will always test you. Markets will fall, opportunities will vanish, betrayals will strike. Motivation cannot protect you. It will abandon you at the first sign of pain. Only discipline, unyielding, boring, relentless discipline can carry you through. And those who endure through storms inherit the empires left behind by those who chase sparks. Wealth is architecture, and architecture is discipline. Build the walls now, stone by stone, quietly, patiently. Ignore the cheers and the distractions. When the storms come, and they will, you will not need motivation. You will not need luck. You will already be standing inside the fortress. And from there, you will not just survive, you will rule.